Ada Lovelace was an English mathematician and writer, chiefly known for her work on Charles Babbage's proposed mechanical general-purpose computer, the Analytical Engine. She was the first to recognize that the machine had applications beyond pure calculation, and to have published the first algorithm intended to be carried out by such a machine. She wrote an algorithm for the computation of Bernoulli numbers. As a result, she is often regarded as the first computer programmer. To say she was ahead of her time would be an understatement. Ada Lovelace earned her place in history as the first computer programmer a full century before today's computers emerged. Ada Byron was the only legitimate child of poet Lord Byron and Lady Byron. All of Byron's other children were born out of wedlock to other women. Byron separated from his wife a month after Ada was born and left England forever. 4 months later, he commemorated the parting in a poem that begins, "Is thy face like thy mother's, my fair child? Ada, sole daughter of my house and heart?" He died in Greece when Ada was 8. Her mother remained bitter and promoted Ada's interest in mathematics and logic in an effort to prevent her from developing her father's perceived insanity. Despite this, Ada remained interested in him, naming her 2 sons Byron and Gordon. Upon her death, she was buried next to him at her request. Although often ill in her childhood, Ada pursued her studies assiduously. She married William King in 1835. King was made Earl of Lovelace in 1838, Ada thereby becoming Countess of Lovelace. Her educational and social exploits brought her into contact with scientists such as Andrew Cross, Charles Babbage, Sir David Brewster, Charles Wheatstone, Michael Faraday, and the author Charles Dickens, contacts which she used to further her education. Ada described her approach as poetical science, and herself as an analyst and metaphysician. When she was 18, her mathematical talents led her to a long working relationship and friendship with fellow British mathematician Charles Babbage, who is known as the father of computers. She was in particular interested in Babbage's work on the Analytical Engine. Lovelace first met him in June 1833 through their mutual friend, and her private tutor, Mary Somerville. Between 1842 and 1843, Ada translated an article by Italian military engineer Luigi Minabra about the Analytical Engine, supplementing it with an elaborate set of notes, simply called Notes. Lovelace's notes are important in the early history of computers, containing what many consider to be the first computer program, that is, an algorithm designed to be carried out by a machine. Other historians reject this perspective and point out that Babbage's personal notes from the years 1836-1837 contain the first programs for the engine. She also developed a vision of the capability of computers to go beyond mere calculating or number crunching, while many others, including Babbage himself, focused only on those capabilities. Her mindset of poetical science led her to ask questions about the analytical engine, as shown in her notes, examining how individuals and society relate to technology as a collaborative tool. She couldn't have done it without British mathematician, inventor and engineer Charles Babbage. Their collaboration started in the early 1830s, when Lovelace was just 17 and still known by her maiden name of Byron. She was the only legitimate child of poet Lord Byron. Babbage had drawn up plans for an elaborate machine he called the difference engine, essentially, a giant mechanical calculator. In the middle of his work on it, the teenage Lovelace met Babbage at a party. There, he showed off an incomplete prototype of his machine. According to a family friend who was there, while other visitors gazed at the working of this beautiful instrument with the sort of expression that some savages are said to have shown on first seeing a looking glass or hearing a gun. Miss Byron, young as she was, understood its working, and saw the great beauty of the invention. In the words of Babbage himself, Lovelace was an enchantress who has thrown her magical spell around the most abstract of sciences and has grasped it with a force which few masculine intellects could have exerted over it. And that made the beginning of computer era. It was mathematical obsession at first sight. The two struck up a working relationship and eventual close friendship that would last until Lovelace's death in 1852, when she was only 36. Babbage abandoned his difference engine to brainstorm a new analytical engine, in theory, capable of more complex number crunching, but it was Lovelace who saw that engine's true potential. The analytical engine was more than a calculator. Its intricate mechanisms and the fact that the user fed it commands via a punch card meant the engine could perform nearly any mathematical task ordered. Lovelace even wrote instructions for solving a complex math problem, should the machine ever see the light of day. Many historians would later deem those instructions the first computer program, and Lovelace the first programmer. While she led a raucous life of gambling and scandal, it's her work in poetical science, as she called it, that defines her legacy.